Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 10 Thursday night football, the game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins. Ravens favored by 7 in this one. Total of 47.5. DraftKings Showdown for NFL DFS Week 10 is on tap. I'm going to take a quick overview, a 30,000 foot look at what this slate is. The pricing is extremely aggressive from DraftKings for this Thursday night. So it's going to be very difficult. Usually it has been as easy as, well, just slam Lamar Jackson in, pair him with like 2 of his pass catchers, and then just kind of find a way to make it work. But it's very difficult, as you're going to see as we get into this video, to just stack him with his 2 favorite options. So we're going to try and do what we can to give you a look at how I'm going to be building lineups using the Fantasy Labs optimizer. We'll also do like a pick 'em on underdog for the game. For those of you who like to play pick 'em, I think it's a lot of fun to go and try and pick some of the props from a fantasy perspective. Either 2, 3, 4, or 5. They pay out different sorts of payouts depending on how risky you want to get with those overs and unders on the player props for fantasy scores. So if you are new to the channel, drop a like on the video, subscribe, ring the notifications bell, and leave me a reply down below with what your favorite prop on these underdog pick'ems are. Let's go.
He's a legend.
All right, let's start with the underdog pick'ems. If you use promo code ALSMIZZLE, it'll be right here, I think. If I can remember in editing to put the code right here. Use code ALSMIZZLE for $10 on your first deposit. You get a free $10. You can use it to make your first little pick'em card. Lamar Jackson over or under 212.5 total yards. That's rushing and passing. Marquise Brown over or under 69.5 receiving yards. Nice. Mark Andrews 59.5 receiving yards. Also nice. Gaskin 67.5 rush plus receiving. I'm going to go over that one. There's also nobody to pass to for Miami right now. As the game looks, they should be playing from behind. I'm going to go over this, but I'm going to go under on Mark Andrews receiving yards. That one could bite me. I usually just play overs because they're way less EV. They're negative EV, in fact. Like, the unders are the better bets, but like, we like fun. I want to root for the fun. So like, I would love to play over on Lamar Jackson's 312. I'd love to play over on Marquise Brown's because I like fun and I want good things to happen. I'm going to put in $50 for this and to win 300. Submit the card. Boom. There it is. Promo code ALSMIZZLE at checkout, all one word. Make sure that you're jumping into the Smiz Gang Listener League. $10, 3 max, $30,000. All of it gets paid out 10% to first place. Absolutely no rake. Best tournament on DraftKings. So looking at the slate, as I said, Lamar Jackson. He's expensive. We talked about slate-breaking quarterbacks, guys that can run the ball a whole lot, throw for multiple touchdowns, run for a touchdown or 2. Typically, I'm going to limit my quarterback total, both quarterbacks in captain, to about 15 total percentage points. But on a slate where Lamar Jackson is the quarterback, I'm probably going to bump him. I might allow like 10 to 15% of Lamar Jackson and 5% of the other quarterback. 15% of total showdown slates have been won with a quarterback that's been the captain. Based on DraftKings scoring with bonuses, with full PPR, it's just more typical for a running back or a receiver, especially a pass-catching running back, to end the night as the optimal captain in showdown. Sometimes tight ends end up being the optimal captain as well. But if you're going to be building Lamar Jackson lineups, now this is also where it's going to get interesting because of the pricing on the slate. Typically, I build, and we'll look at this in the lineup builder as we move along, I force 2 pass catchers with my quarterback captain, but this is a single game situation. And so I'm probably going to change the rule when Thursday night comes around to have a specific rule for brisket captains, Jacoby Brissett, or Lamar Jackson captains. If Lamar Jackson's captain, I'm probably going to say use at least 1 of the pass catchers from his team because they are really expensive. If you try and jam Brown, who has been, I mean, freaking fantastic. I think he's the wide receiver 5 on the year in total in all of fantasy. He has got a ton of targets, getting a boatload of usage. One of the league leaders in terms of end zone targets, which are the easiest targets to turn into. Like, he's got a high degree of difficulty on his touchdown pass receptions. because typically he's got a high ADOT. He catches touchdowns from like 50, 60 yards. So like there's a lot of variance there. You're seeing it with Jamar Chase. Remember after like the first 5 weeks when I said Jamar Chase is just not going to catch a 50-yard touchdown every week, and people freaked out on me? What do you mean? He's really good. He's totally going to keep doing that. Except not. So if a player like Marquise Brown, who has that same skill set to get behind a defense and contribute with those big splash touchdowns, is also supplanting that with a nice floor of end zone targets, you're getting almost the perfect wide receiver on DraftKings with a boatload of targets every single week, the primary option in that passing game, as well as getting the big splash ability and the end zone targets. Taking a look at all of the Ravens targets on the year, as I said, it's basically centered between these two guys. Marquise Brown at 27% of the target market share, and Mark Andrews with 64%. Then it really drops off partially because Sammy Watkins has missed a few weeks. Rashad Bateman has played in those weeks, getting basically 6 targets a game. This 7.3% includes all of the weeks on the season, including the weeks that he missed. You got Devin Duvernay chipping in for 8%. He caught a really nice touchdown this week. So like, there's not a lot of pass catchers, so that's why I'm saying I'd probably want to concentrate him with just one. And the meat of it goes to Andrews and Brown inside the red zone, and then Devin Duvernay with 6 red zone targets so far this season. So it's hard to get there. It's just really, really hard to get there. Even if you have Bateman, we have to check on Sammy Watkins, because if he's back, that's not just going to jam up Bateman, it's also going to jam up Sammy Watkins, because Bateman's been legit good when he's been in there, and I think that they're really going to split a lot of the available targets. Devin Duvernay as well in that group. I'm not going to use Boyd. Just nobody else catches the ball, so that's why I think I'm going to go with an at least one. We're also going to build a bring back group with all of the viable Miami players on the other side, because you have to have a 5+1 at least, and there's a lot more viable fantasy players on Miami because there's a lot less sharing, I guess, that has to go on, and their prices are lower than their counterparts on Baltimore. So looking at Miami's target tree, Jaylen Waddle with 76, Mike Gesicki with 64, Myles Gaskin with 46, and Devontae Parker out. So like, you've got those 3 dudes that are getting the vast majority of all the usage. Lamar Jackson is your optimal captain, but I think that Hollywood makes for a very reasonable captain, and I don't think that I would be opposed to having the 3 Miami Dolphins core guys. Gaskin, if he can be a little bit more efficient on the ground with this heightened usage in the passing game with Malcolm Brown out, has been fantastic. Jaylen Waddle as well, double-digit targets in 3 of the last 4 games, does great with or without Parker in the lineup. He's just getting peppered with targets, but like, somehow they've turned this massive downfield threat with game-breaking speed into early career Jarvis Landry with an ADOT of like 5. It's baffling to me that that's how they're rolling him out. But like, Mike Gesicki has also had a ton of usage and downfield usage from Miami in this offense. There's just not much that they can do. So like, I think that all these 3 guys are viable captains on this slate, and assuming that Tua is still out with that broken middle finger, Jacoby Brissett, aka the smoked brisket, is going to get another start. He's nice, he's not thrilling, but like, maybe he could have a big game, especially if they're playing from behind, kind of like a Mike White sort of game where like he gets 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns, mostly in a chase situation. And Baltimore's defense has been okay, but not great, and they've been very giving against opposing tight ends, being the 2nd most allowed DraftKings points to opposing tight ends on the season. So in any lineup that has Gaskin at quarterback, I'm not going to force Brisket into that lineup, but like, if Waddle's there, I'm probably going to force Brissett into that lineup. And also the same thing if I've got Gesicki, because if Gesicki has specifically for captain, this is the reason why. If Gesicki has a captain night, and your captain is going to be one of the top 2 scorers on the slate pretty much all the time in any showdown slate. It's very rare that you get a situation where somebody who's not the top scorer on the slate or a top 3 scorer on the slate ends up being the optimal captain. So getting a Gesicki captain spot, if he has a game where he's the viable captain and scores you 25 DraftKings points, which would be, 37.5 in the captain. And that would also mean that you could afford maybe that stack on the other side with LAMAR and Marquise Brown in the flex. Brissett's going to have a pretty solid day himself, and that's the reasoning behind it. If you're going to play somebody in captain, everything has to work with the thought that that person's going to have that massive day. And if he has that massive day, that's what it's going to lead to. So looking over at the Fantasy Labs Optimizer, I've already got my template plugged in here. 90% of the cap minimum, not allowing a kicker or a defense in the captain spot. My 5 rules that we talked about: pair your captain quarterback with at least 2 of their pass catchers or kicker. You can drop this if you want to say at least 1 for this particular slate. I typically leave it at 2. Pair your captain quarterback with at least 1 of the players' offense, but not defense or kicker from the opponent. At least don't force them into that. Pair your captain wide receiver or tight end with the quarterback, and limit to at most 1 defense or kicker from the same game in every lineup. And then the most important one to me is I've been adding this group of use at least 1, and then I put a list of players that I believe are going to be 20, 25% or down, and I force at least 1 of them into every lineup, overweighting most of them, matching the field maybe on the most high one, like the 20 or 25% guy. Maybe I have 25 or 30% of him, but like the guys that are going to come in at 5, 10, 12%, I'm probably going to have 20% of each of those guys, overweighting the field in case they have a really big day. Because what it ends up doing is it differentiates your lineup just enough so that if you are going to split, and you probably are going to split when you're playing Showdown, you're splitting with like 5 to 10 people instead of splitting with 100 to 500 people, because there's nothing worse than coming in first in Showdown and winning like $1,000, as opposed to coming in first in Showdown and winning $50,000 to $200,000. That's really the goal. You can run it to run 150, and make sure that you're setting all of your exposures, because that's the most important part. Never just one run and upload it. Good luck to everybody this week, and look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.